Hi, and welcome to Next Generation Data Control for Anything AWS. I'm Dustin Albertson. I am the Manager of Cloud and Applications Group for Product Management at Veeam, and I'm joined with David Hill, who is a Global Technologist for Product Strategy at Veeam. Today, we're going to be walking you through a typical customer journey from on-prem into AWS to cloud native, even Kubernetes. I'm going to walk you through Veeam and AWS, some of the plays and connections that we have with AWS. Then I'm going to give you a demo of our cloud native product, Veeam Backup for AWS. After that, I'm going to hand it off to David, who's going to finish this up and walk us through Kubernetes and protection of EKS with K10. So let's get started. The first section here, we're going to walk through a typical cloud journey, I'll say. A customer, is on-prem and wants to migrate to the cloud. What are some of the plays that they can do with Veeam and AWS? So the first one we typically see is Cloud Gateway, right? So the AWS Storage Gateway in VTL mode. And this is where a customer can take their backups from on-prem, send them to a tape gateway, and have them land on Glacier and Deep Archive for more long-term archival purposes. In this process, there's a storage gateway that gets deployed on the on-prem environment, and then it's connected up to the Veeam server, and then is treated as a standard tape gateway. This has been very popular in the past, and it still continues to be very popular with the improvements that AWS keeps making to this gateway. The next mode is we introduced a feature called Capacity Tier, and what this is it's a way for customers to connect to AWS S3 and have their backups be archived off or tiered off to S3. This has been very, very popular with Veeam customers. It is a method that does both copy and move functions. What I mean by that is the move function is it takes backups and tiers them off after X period of time. Again, this is something that the customer can set. So say I want my backups to be tiered off after 10 days, then they're automatically moved or tiered into S3 for that long-term archival. The next mode is copy, and what that does is instantly copy a backup as soon as it's taken into S3 so that you have that secondary copy. We also introduced a feature called Immutability, which leverages the Object Lock platform, API, I should say. And what that does is give a customer that immutability by saying, hey, I want to keep these backups immutable or not able to be edited or changed in any way for X period of time. So say 10 days, they set it. Those backups will not be able to be deleted for 10 days. We leverage the API. There's two modes for security. There's compliance, and then there's governance. We leverage compliance, which is the stricter of the two. And again, this is provided by Veeam with no double charging, I'll say. So we don't charge for consumption. You're just going to be charged on your AWS consumption, which you would typically, have to pay. So we're not billing you for this feature. It's a feature that's built into the product. Again, I said the copy and the move modes here. So this is kind of an image that talks through that. So the copy is again instantaneously. The move mode is more of a tiering mechanism. Both of these can be used together as well. So when the move mode comes, it will just remove it from on-prem because that data already resides if you have copy mode enabled. And again, the immutability aspect of it has been very, very popular. We've seen the storage consumption numbers grow just because customers are leveraging this feature, and they want to make sure that they're protected from ransomware and attacks and things like that. And it helps them meet that 3-2-1. What we call 3-2-1, I guess I should explain it. So 3 copies of data, 2 different media types, one of those being off-site. 3-2-1 rules is a really good rule to follow as far as data protection and making sure that you're covered. The next step of this is, once those backups are in S3, now what, right? So we have a feature that's called Direct Restore to EC2. And what this enables is the restoration of any Veeam backup. Now that could be a what we call VBR, Veeam Backup and Replication. That could be an agent backup, a Windows agent backup, a Linux agent backup, all of our products, right? So all of our products back up into the same format type, and those can be restored into a EC2 instance. This is an automated process that allows you to choose, your instance types, your regions, your network settings, VPC settings, all of that, and be able to restore that. So again, we're trying to make sure that that data is portable, no matter where it resides, and that's a heavy feature of that. So we've walked through a couple of features there, and I know I'm going pretty fast, but in the essence of time, I wanted to walk through some of those beginning steps of the cloud journey and then talk about, once you're in cloud native, right? So Veeam Backup for AWS is that product. What that means is it's a product that's cloud native, it's deployed in the AWS marketplace. It runs as an EC2 instance, and it protects EC2, EBS, and now what I'm going to show you today, our new version is going to protect RDS and VPC settings as well. So again, it runs as an EC2 instance deployed via the marketplace. Has a console that you can log into, and then you create policies to protect your EC2 instances, RDS instances, VPC settings. Those are region-based, and within these policies, one of the cool things is that you set all your settings, and we're going to show you an estimate of what it would cost to run that policy monthly. So it helps you make those smart decisions before you actually run the policy and get these charges that you weren't aware of because maybe you had your policy set a little bit too strong or a little bit too much. So that's really it's really a cool feature of that. Again, it's secure, so you can have cross-account, cross-region. It has multi-factor authentication, and now we have role-based access control in the product. So there's a myriad of options here to choose to be able to have it be secure. You can back up outside of your production account and keep it inside of a dedicated DR account, possibly. So it's really robust that way. But I'd like to get into a demo here and show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my lab here and we'll walk through a demo. All right, so I have my web page here opened up and logged into my EC2 instance that is controlling my Veeam backup for AWS. So what I'm going to do here is walk through a demo of some of the features that were introduced in version 3 of the product. Version 2 was primarily focused on protection of EC2 instances and EBS volumes. But we'll walk through some of these new changes real quick. I also want to highlight the fact that we will do live demos with you at our the Solution Center. So if you stop by our booth and speak with one of the SEs, we're happy to do a live demo with you and make it a little bit more personal. So first thing I want to highlight here is over on the configuration side, one of the things we introduced is role-based access control. So if you come to settings, you see that now we have this tab here for identity provider, where you can connect this instance to your Veeam, to your identity source, whether it be AD or directory within AWS, something along those lines, so that you can use users in that environment. So what that enables, though, is when you come over here to portal users, you're now able to create a new user that leverages that. And what that gives you the option of, let me put test here, is choosing a role. So now you have portal admin, portal operator, and restore operator. Portal admin, of course, is full control. Operator is view only, and restore operator has the rights to do restorations. So let me cancel out of that real quick. So that was role-based access control. One of the other features here is under policies. Like I said before, we were focused on EC2, right? So we have a couple of changes or a couple of new features in that. So if we click edit on this policy, you can see that we still have the same policy-based protection source, So you can come in here, define your name, go to sources. You can choose your IAM account that you want to leverage to do this. You can choose your region, one or more regions. And then, of course, you can choose your resources by instance name or by tagging, or you could choose to protect all resources. But one of the new features here is the ability to exclude volumes. This feature is really handy for people that don't want to protect the root volume, maybe the boot volume, but they have a data volume attached to instances. For example, SQL servers or Postgres servers, something along those lines, where if something were to happen, you just say, hey, I'll just deploy another instance from the marketplace. I want to protect the data volume so I can connect it back up and start working that way. So this will give you the option to exclude certain volumes, and of course you could do it manually, or you could choose to do tagging or volume ID, something along those lines. Gives you a little bit of flexibility there. So let me cancel back out of that. The next feature we've added is scripting. So you can have scripting for both Windows and Linux instances. What that does is it gives you the option to put a script within a location on the guest, and this policy will run that script either pre or post, depending on what you put in here. We'll run that script before the policy and after the policy, and it'll give you the option to say, cancel the policy if the script fails, or continue if it fails, and so forth. Most of the other settings here are going to be the same that you should be familiar with. We can replicate snapshots across regions, across accounts. We can store snapshots as backups in S3. You still have your same scheduling policies, so you can do daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. And of course, we give a cost estimate of what it would cost to run this policy monthly. So these are all very handy things within a policy to make help you make the correct choice before the policy is done. Let me cancel back out of this, and we'll go over to some of the new features. You can see that we have RDS and VPC. So the first one I want to hit is RDS. So we can now protect your RDS instances. You come in here, you can give it a name. You can choose your sources. So you can choose your account, IAM account. And one of the cool features here is this check permissions. So if you add a role in here and it doesn't have the correct permissions, it will tell you here, but it also gives you the ability to grant. So you can click grant here, give it a access key and a secret, and it'll go and add the policies that it needs. Again, you can choose which region you want this policy to run in, and then you have the option of choosing which database. So you can choose all of them within a region. You can protect ones based on the database name, or of course you can use tagging. So plethora of different choices there to protect. And then you can choose to replicate those snapshots to a different region. And of course you can choose here to keep tags, copy the tags from RDS instance, or you can add custom tags of your own to it as well. Same scheduler, so you can choose daily, weekly, monthly. And then we give you a cost estimate of what it would cost to run this policy. So all these are pretty cool features. Let me show you VPC settings real quick, and then we'll go into what restoration options we have for some of these databases. VPC settings here is pretty cool. So we have the option of protecting automatically, and what that means is if you have a policy for EC2 or you have a policy for RDS, you can set this checkbox here and we'll automatically protect the VPCs that those policies are protecting. So that's pretty cool. You can also choose here to add other regions additionally. So like you can see here, I've chosen another region or another account. So you can choose to protect those VPC settings manually. Target here is by default, we're going to store the VPC settings in the database. But you also can check this checkbox and then store it on an S3 bucket. So what I'm doing here is I have it both in the database and I'm storing an additional copy in the S3 bucket. And then I can choose my retention settings, collect it however so often and keep it for X period of time. So that's VPC settings. Now let's look at protected data. So with EC2, of course, I have all the same settings that you should be familiar with. So I can restore both an instance or a volume. And I could do these both back to the original or back to something different. I could do file level recovery and be able to restore just a file. But let's look at some of the RDS stuff. So I could choose here, and I could choose to restore an instance. I could choose an instance here, and then I could choose a restore point. Maybe I want to go back to a certain time. Click next. I can choose my role that I want to do it. And again, I can check the permissions from here. My restore mode, I can go back to the original, or I can go to a new location. And when I choose this one, you can see it drop down some other options over here. So I could choose a region, and then it gives me all of my options. I could choose whether I want to encrypt it. I could choose all of my advanced settings that are available to me. So I can, hit advanced. I can see all of the settings that I have optional to me. I could change instance options. I could change parameter group, option groups. I could change the instance size, instance class. So all of these settings are available to me. And then, of course, networking, and then all those options. So let me cancel out of this. One of the really cool things I want to show you here real quick is VPC settings. So, a lot of people don't protect VPC, but this is really cool. So again, I have the option of restoring the entire VPC, or I can choose selected items. Selected items is real cool because then you can get down to the nitty gritty. I can choose, I just want to restore a subnet, or I want to restore an endpoint. You have all these options available to you. Security groups, ACLs, all the gateways, and again, transit gateways. And then you can choose an account, choose the account you want to restore it with, and then that gives you that option. But one really cool feature here is now I can click compare. And what this is going to do is compare a certain backup point. So let me choose one that has some sort of settings different. Let me find one down here somewhere. There we go. I'll select that one. And with this on, you can see that it's only showing me the changes. So this backup is different from production. So in this backup, I had a security group rule that allowed port 53 inbound on this security group. Production doesn't have that. So I'm able to compare versus production to say, okay, I want to, this is what happened, or this is the change. And when something went down, something stopped working, I'm able to restore just that and see if I can get it back working. I can also uncheck this, and it'll show me all the options, between the two. So that's a really cool feature there that I wanted to highlight. And again, I just wanted to briefly show some of the features of V3. Please stop by the solution booth, stop by our booth in the hall, get a personalized demo, speak with one of the SEs, and if you have any further questions, please reach out. I'll hand it back over to David for an intro into Kasten.
Thank you, Dustin. So now we're going to talk about Kubernetes and how we can protect Kubernetes workloads running on the AWS public cloud. We're going to look at how we can leverage Kasten by Veeam. And recently in October, we actually acquired Kasten. So we now have within Veeam a Kubernetes business unit that has the product Kasten by Veeam. So it's a very exciting time at Veeam. Kasten is the leader in data management protection for Kubernetes workloads. So we're going to look through what actually is the K10 platform. And Kasten focuses on 4 key areas, and that's application discovery, policy-driven automation, ease and simple user interface, and end-to-end security. So when you look at the K10 platform and you want to protect your EKS workloads in the Kubernetes platform, you're able to use Kasten by Veeam to not only protect these workloads, but also migrate these workloads. So it's mobility as well. So when you think about you've got Kubernetes workloads running on-prem and you want to migrate these out to EKS to be closer to other AWS services like RDS and things like that, leveraging Kasten to not only protect those workloads, but migrate to AWS is a very simple way of doing these things. The whole mobility aspect is what Veeam works very well as. Dustin talked about the cloud tier and leveraging Veeam backup for AWS and AWS S3 object storage. We have the same use cases and capabilities in Kasten by Veeam. If we take this diagram here as an example, you can build out multiple EKS clusters across multiple availability zones in AWS and also integrate with things like identity access management, leverage EBS snapshots to protect your workloads, and also leverage Amazon S3 object storage to actually offload those backups. And then you can actually import them into different clusters as well. So it's a very simple, very easy way to protect your Kubernetes workloads running in EKS and migrate from your on-premises infrastructure running Kubernetes. We can migrate across different Kubernetes versions as well, which is critical when you think about how we can actually migrate from these two different platforms. So now we're going to switch over to a demonstration, and we're going to look at how simple Kasten by Veeam is to use, how you can protect these workloads running in EKS, and how we can actually offload these into Amazon S3. Welcome to this demonstration of Kasten by Veeam, a Kubernetes data management and data protection solution. In this quick demonstration today, we're going to show you how easy it is to actually back up your Kubernetes workloads and also restore them. So let's get started. You'll see here that you're presented with the Kasten by Veeam dashboard, and it gives you a lot of information around applications, how many policies you have, and how much data you're actually protecting. So the first thing we'll notice is that we have two unmanaged applications. This is telling us that two of our applications are actually unprotected. So we need to go and create a backup policy for them. If we click on the unmanaged, we'll see that we have a default namespace. No surprise, we're not protecting that one. And then we have one called web servers, which actually contains a WordPress application. All we need to do is click create a policy, and it automatically populates with a name. We can pick whether that we want to do a snapshot, how often we want to take these snapshots, our snapshot retention. So if we change this to say weekly, we'll keep less snapshots, or we can change it to daily. How many of these do we want to keep? So we only want to keep one a day. We'll keep 12 monthly, 4 weeklies, and so on. By selecting Enable Backup via Snapshot Export, this actually allows us to export those snapshots to an off-site location, something like object storage, NFS, and so on. So we've already created our location profile here. We can pick how we want to back up these applications, so we can do it by name, or we can actually do it by labels as well. So all the labels that you get in Kubernetes. So you can even say things like any application that's deployed via Helm, anything that has a PostgreSQL application, however you want to set that up. So we'll just say that we want to do it by name, and we're just going to say anything that is by the web server's name. So anything that has the web server's namespace. We can break this down and include filters as well to back up different individual resources. So we can do inclusions and exclusions, but we'll say all resources. And then we simply say create policy. Now we have our policy created, and we can actually just say, right, I want to go and run this policy. And if we go to our dashboard, we'll see here that our backup will actually start for that workload. And it will run through and go and back up all the individual components required for that WordPress application. Once we have that backed up, we can look at what's actually contained within those backups. So I have another one here called WordPress, and we'll look at the details of this. And this is the power of Kasten. When we're looking at our backups and how we can actually do this, it backs up all the individual components that make up a Kubernetes application. Remember, a Kubernetes application isn't just the actual container. It's all the services, the load balancers, the certificates, the configuration maps, and so on. So with Kasten by Veeam, you can actually see all the different components just by scrolling down. So we see that we have secrets. Down here we have our configuration maps. We have our networking, so we have our different services, what our actual workloads are. So we see that we have a WordPress workload and a database, which is a stateful set workload. And then what our persistent volumes are as well. So it gives us the granular information that we need to understand this application. We have a number of restore points. So if we want to restore this application, we can actually click on restore point and go back in time and pick a previous backup to actually restore. So we can say, right, okay, this backup here, 11:32 a.m. on October 27th, I want to go and restore it. We can go through and pick the individual components. So remember that granular restore that I was talking about. We can actually select different ones, pick the ones that we want, restore them all, restore individual ones. Whatever we need to do, Kasten gives you that granular control over your restores. And then we simply say, right, I want to do a restore. And the restore started. So we go to our dashboard and we can see that the restore has started. Our target namespace is WordPress, so we will be overwriting that existing WordPress workload that I showed. And that's it. That's how simple it is to perform backups and restores within Kasten. We can see here that the backup that we ran for that new policy we created has been successfully ran, and that we have just started our export. So we're actually copying that backup out into our object storage that we created. If we look at our applications, we can see that they're all compliant. They're all compliant with policies. The one that we created is compliant as well, and we have a single restore point. So that, in a very quick nutshell, is Kasten by Veeam.
So that demonstration of Kasten by Veeam shows how simple and easy it is to protect your Kubernetes workloads running in AWS EKS. So the managed Kubernetes service provided by AWS. Very simple, very easy to use. So now we want to finish with a quick recap of the 5 key areas that we kind of focus on from a Veeam perspective, whether it's backing up your AWS EC2 instances or your Kubernetes workloads running on AWS EKS. And the 5 key areas to focus on are the architecture. As Dustin spoke about, and you saw in Dustin's demo of Veeam Backup for AWS, being able to integrate with the infrastructure where your workloads is running is critical. So understanding that architecture, whether it's availability zones, the EC2 instances, leveraging things like EBS snapshots. And it's the same for the Kubernetes workloads running in AWS EKS as well. Again, being able to leverage things like EBS snapshots and leveraging Amazon S3 to provide you with that core infrastructure so you can offload your backups. The recoverability aspects as well. It's no good being able to back up and protect your workloads if you can't actually recover them back to the platforms or into different locations. If you think about one of the key benefits of AWS is their ability to have data centers all around the world. You want to be able to recover those workloads to any of those data centers, any of those availability zones, and also be able to leverage the built-in APIs of that platform. The operations aspect, everything that Veeam does, whether it's Veeam Backup for AWS, Kasten by Veeam, or leveraging the cloud tier to actually use AWS S3 object storage to store your backups, has to integrate with your operations teams. So making sure that not only the software works with those platforms, but the processes and procedures that the business has
can also integrate with those same tools is key. Portability is another aspect. We talked about how you can migrate from on-premises out to AWS, whether it's an EC2 instance or whether it's a Kubernetes workload, whatever platform you're backing up with Veeam, even a physical machine in your own on-premises data center can be migrated to the AWS platform using Veeam and its data portability aspects. And then finally, the security. It wouldn't be 2020 if we didn't talk about security. Ransomware is always going on, rogue admins. So integrating with things like AWS Identity and Access Management, building out role-based access control so we can actually leverage that IAM platform within AWS to provide you with security. Also things like immutability, leveraging AWS S3 object lock on those individual objects to help protect against ransomware. So those 5 key areas are what Veeam focus on with their data management products designed specifically to give AWS customers the ability to protect their workloads and also your workloads when they're on-prem as well. So across the 2 platforms, we can help you protect your data, manage the data, and also migrate your data across those platforms. So thank you for watching this presentation. Thank you from me. Thank you from Dustin. And we hope you appreciated the time and enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.